Okay, so thank you everybody for attending. This video, what we're going to be covering is everything about field configuration inside of Apptivo. So this is specifically going to be designed for people who are administrators inside of an Apptivo platform. We're expecting that you already have some basic familiarity with Apptivo and kind of how the system works in general, because what we're going to focus on today is just how you manage all the different fields in each app and what's related to them. So as far as a quick little agenda, really what we're going to do is I'm going to look at the overall field configuration hierarchy. So when you construct the field, what does it do? What effect does it have in the other app? And what components get built in? So just how does everything relate to each other? And then we're going to talk about the master layout. Really, that's the core of all field configuration, as you're going to see in the next slide. So the idea is we're going to spend all of our time in the master layout, but I just want to quickly show how that interface works. And then we'll go dive into what types of fields are supported inside of Apptivo, both basic and advanced, and then we'll go look at the types of settings that you can control about these individual fields. So let's go ahead and dive in. To start off, when we look at the fields inside of Apptivo, everything's centered around this master layout, as we mentioned, but the idea is that there's some standard fields. So right when you set up Apptivo, we build in some standard fields. Like if you bring up a contact, they're going to have a first name, last name, phone number, and there's some other stuff we built in. So if you're in the sales applications, you're going to see a territories field, or we've constructed a categories field for customers. So there's some standard fields baked into the system, and they're still fully customizable, but the idea is that their configuration feeds into the master layout. So when we hop into the settings, I'll show you where I can configure standard fields, and then where I can go configure the custom fields, which are actually contained inside of the master layout itself. So there's no other place to change the value for a custom field except in the master layout. Versus if you have a standard field and you want to change the values available inside of it, there's going to be a different area inside of the configuration to change that, which would automatically update the master layout. Otherwise, the only thing that really feeds into the master layout is the security privileges. So if you want to apply security over individual fields to restrict them, then first you have to go create the privileges, then we can come into the master layout and assign those privileges to certain fields. But other than that, you can see basically all the other features inside of an application, they're driven by the master layout. And I just want to quickly call out a couple of these key ones. So very specifically, the top two items are going to be list layouts and views. So the concept is that any field that you create in an app in the master layout, you can control the columns. So when you're looking through search results, I bring up a list of my contacts. Which columns appear is called the list layout. And any field inside of the master layout can be included inside of a list layout. The views are actually, it's a combination of your list layout, but it's how you can filter your data and search through it. So every field in the master layout becomes searchable inside of your database, and you can create views that predefine search criteria to select contacts, and then I can control which list layout that they would use. So you're fully customizing the search criteria and the output, all based around custom fields. Then everything else, we get into some more specific, unique features that you may or may not use. So the triggers is our general workflow feature. You'll be able to write conditions and rules based on the state of fields, and you'll be able to update fields in the master layout based on automation. And then email templates. So any field that you create in the master layout can then be included inside of email templates. We can write duplication rules that look at the different fields you configure and determine whether we should flag a contact as a duplicate. And then in some applications, we have highlighting rules to indicate when a high priority ticket comes in, but you could write complex rules that look at your custom fields and determine when to highlight rows. So all of these are built right on top, but really everything that we're going to look at today, it's all about that master layout. So there's an area in the settings of each app called master layout, and you're going to find it over here in the left column. You'll see there's the master layout section. It'll be underneath customize app, and this is the basis of everything. So when you're in the master layout page, you've got the middle panel. So this is all the different fields. It's your editing area. And then the panel on the right is where we're going to be able to drag in new fields, and we can change the details of an individual field, or we have our revision history. So we're going to hop in here in a moment. I'm going to show you this feature. But the idea is that this is a fully drag and drop interface. So I can drag fields over and drop them here, or I could click on any field, and then it would switch the panel over here to show me their full details. So let's go ahead. Let's quickly switch into the application. And let's show the master layout. So here, I've already logged in, but let's just quickly go and navigate through. So if I wanted to get to master layout, I would click on the three dots up here in my app, and then go to settings. Then over on the left, I'll be able to come to master layout underneath customize app. And that puts us on this drag and drop interface. So here, we can control anything. And in this demo company, we have lots of different custom fields generated, so it probably won't look too much like yours. But the idea is you see that 3-column layout, and really we're just working in the center too. And on the right, if we wanted to create a brand new field, we simply drag and drop. So we'd select the type of field. Let's just say we want a basic text field, and we drag it on over. Now, once you have a field, whether it's a brand new one or a previously existing one, you simply click on it, and what you'll see is when I click it, this panel on the right now switches to the Inspector tab. So the Inspector contains all the different settings that you have over one individual field. And it all starts off with just naming this field. So in this case, I'm working on a contact. I could just create one called nickname. Everything's gonna at least preview in real time as you save it, but you will see as I start to make adjustments, it'll say you have unsaved changes. So nothing will become saved or put into the revision history until you click save. So as a general best practice, when you're making large numbers of changes, it's good to save your work periodically, because as you make these saves, let's say if you accidentally delete something or you make some sort of mistake, then the revision history will actually allow you to restore any previous revision of the settings. So I can just click on the revisions tab right here, and you'll see all the previous changes that I've made, in addition to that new one. So I can very easily just roll right back to the previous change that we had by clicking here. But otherwise, I can click on any field, and we have this inspector with all the different options inside of it. And we're going to cover in detail what these options are, but that's the general concept of I have fields and details about the fields. But one other thing as I'm scrolling down is you'll see that I've got these sections. So you can arrange your fields into your own sections. Back on the palette tab, where we can create fields, we can also create new sections. So you'll see I can generate a 1-column or a 2-column section, and they follow the same general practices. To create a section, drag it over into an empty location. You'll see its default named as section name, and we simply click on the section itself, and it has its own settings inside of the inspector, which are a little bit different than the individual fields. So I could call this my special contact details or something like that. And then that would rename the section, and we could take fields and move them in. So in addition to creating new fields, I can take existing fields, such as this nickname, and I can simply drag them to rearrange them into my own section. And just like fields, sections themselves can be dragged up or down to be rearranged. So you can make changes like that, and then everything is saved. You can also delete fields, where you'll notice if I mouse over a field, I can delete it entirely. So if we wanted to come and just delete that field, or we could delete the entire section, what happens is the system will go ahead and save that. So you will be able to find it in the revision history, but if you look up here, we have two different views, and the second one is the hierarchical view. So by clicking on this, we'll be able to see which fields have been removed from the layout. So feel free to go ahead and remove everything that you think might not be relevant when you're first configuring the firm, because as you come down, you can simply toggle one on to restore that field, or from here, if you know that you're truly never going to use it again, you can delete that field. So when a field is removed from the layout, Apptivo does not immediately delete the data behind it. Until you permanently delete a field from the layout, we will retain your business data in case you ever want to restore that field. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, we'll go ahead, we'll cancel that, and we've kind of run through the basics of the layout. So really what we want to dive into now is when we're doing this editing, what are these fields? What are each type that's available? And then when I click on a field, what are all these different settings that are available? So let's get back into our slide deck now. Okay, so we're going to talk about the different types of attributes. And just a quick little comment that the word field and attribute they're interchangeable completely. So you'll see it referenced in both ways throughout all the documentation and everything. They both mean the same thing. Now, when we're looking at attributes, we can basically break them down into two different categories of the simple ones and then the advanced ones. And many of the basic attributes you can just look at them and you can tell exactly what they are. So you've got your standard, text boxes, just whether you want a single line of text or whether you want a multi-line box. And then you can have just a hyperlink if you want. So you just put in a URL, but the system will hyperlink it for you. Standard entry. Then you move into slightly more formatted type text. So you have numbers and currencies. You're still just typing a value in from your keyboard, but the idea is that we'll format it properly. You can control the decimal points, you can control which currency, everything like that. And then you have the date field. So the date actually has like a picker where I can click on a calendar and select the date from a list, or of course you can manually type one in, but it will force you to select a valid date. Then drop down radio toggle. These are options where I want to pick from a list and, categorize a record as something, but they each have slightly different purposes. So if you only need to select a single value, you'll be looking at either drop down or radio. Drop down is better for a higher number of values. Radio is great for just one or two values, but radio takes up more visual space in the interface. Whereas toggle allows multiple selections. So if I have something like, a tagging based system, and I can categorize somebody as 5 different tags, then I would use the toggle switch. So that would be an example of if I'm indicating which services that a company has purchased from me, and I offer 5 different services, I could have a toggle with all 5 services, and then just toggle off the 2 or 3 services that one customer might have. Next, you have address, phone, and email. So we have special types of fields specifically for these, and there's other functionality wrapped around them, but we just allow you to create custom address types. Although just to be aware, when you see that you have like billing addresses or business phone numbers and everything, those are actually customized through a different area in the communication settings. Otherwise, you have a file upload, which is a direct integration with the Documents tab. It just allows you to have a specified type of file. So let's say if you have a contract with every deal and you want to put the contract field and make it mandatory at a certain stage, you can get advanced and write conditions such as that. So you could put a file attribute called contract and then make it mandatory. The last one is just spacer. So just like you can take sections to rearrange and format how you want the page to look, you can create empty attributes to form artificial space to spread out and make things visually enticing for your team. So we'll run through those in a moment, and then we'll talk about the functions, the reference apps, and then the financial ones, which we're really not going to get too far into these today. So let's go ahead, let's take a look inside of the system and see what those fields are. So starting off with the basic attributes, we'll just kind of quickly talk about each one real fast. And we'll just go ahead and run down this list. So it starts off with the text attribute. Simple as it gets. Plain text field, great for short little messages, things like names, details, anything that can fit well into, one little line and about half a page of a screen. The date picker. So this will actually, it'll give you the selection of the dates, but keep in mind also how you want to filter data later on. So if I have a date attribute, like this date of first contact, when you open up the search system, you'll notice the system will give you search functionality based on the type of attribute. So dates and numbers will allow you to do range-based searches, whereas drop-down menus and text fields are just simple keyword searches or match-based searches. So consider how you need to filter the data and present it when you're considering which types of attributes to use. So the date picker, and then we have the number attribute. So this is where we can go and we can just say that it has to be a number. You can say it can have 1 or 0 decimal points. We can do rounding and such. And we'll talk about the settings next. Currency is very similar. So the radio and toggle and drop down, we can see kind of what they look like. I'm actually going to go click and I'll show you what some of these are. They functionally look like. So drop down menu, it's pretty straightforward. These are those toggle switches where we can allow multiple different selections. And then here's our different email field. So you'll see the email type allows you to do many different emails, and the phone number and address have the same kind of functionality. So an address would actually show all the address line 1, address line 2, etc. Then here you can see the date picker and all the different option types. So you can kind of see how they render out there. So let's get back into the settings area. And yeah, so as we mentioned, the drop-down radio and toggle are very similar. Your general guideline is most people use between toggles and drop-downs, and your decision point is simply whether it's a single selection or multiple selection. It's actually fairly rare these days to use a radio button selection. Otherwise, the link, it's pretty standard and straightforward. It's just what you said. It's a plain text field, but we'll hyperlink it automatically based on what you type in. And the text area, you'll see it'll actually give you like bullet points and such. So it's the same as a text field, just allows you to do much more in-depth formatting. So then we come down to the advanced attributes, and this is where we really need to get into things. So the function attribute allows you to write a formula based on other attributes. So an example of this would be, I'm going into my opportunities application, and in here I want to add a field that takes 3% of the overall opportunity value and prints that as a field called sales commission. So then I can go pull it into reports and things like that. So inside of the settings area, I can create a function attribute, which I've actually created one, but we'll delete it. We'll recreate it right now. So you can see I've got this sales commission field. We'll act like that doesn't exist, and we'll create a fresh one right now. So I would drag my function attribute over. We can click on it one time. So we can call this our sales commission. And then when we scroll down inside of our settings, we'll be able to write a function. So in this case, oops, I don't want the predefined function. I want to create my own function. And then you'll see what I can do is I can take any attribute. So in this case, I want to take the value of the opportunity from this attribute selector, and we are going to multiply it by 0.03. So we'll get 3% of the opportunity value. Now by doing that, that's all we have to do. We've now set up a function attribute. And what you'll see is when we create an opportunity and type in a value, it'll automatically go and fill in that sales commission. So let's just go quickly, create an opportunity, and we'll show the effect of that. So our amount field up here, and our sales commission's right there. So we just type in $1,000. And we can see sales commission has been printed out at 30. And you can do some further work such as the formatting of how you want that to be formatted to format it as a number. But that's the function attribute. So let's get back into the layout and let's talk about ref apps and ref app fields. These are pretty cool. So what a ref app field is in Apptivo, apps can have associations with each other. So in this example, a sales opportunity is associated with a customer and a contact. Now the customer and contacts apps have their own master layout with their own fields. So the concept of a ref app is saying, I want to form an association between an opportunity and a contact or another record. The ref app field is saying, I have an existing association and I want to go display a field from that associated record, but display it here within this application. So the use case is, let's say, there's actually some default ref apps built in where I'm creating an opportunity. I want to take the territory and the industry and the address of the customer. I want to make them visible on the opportunity, but I do not want to duplicate that data. I want to store it in the customer record. So the concept of the ref app field allows you to bring that data into the opportunity, but we're not duplicating it. So in this example, once again, I'm going to delete my other one. I have a custom toggle switch in my customers app called services. This is the scenario we discussed earlier. Okay? My company offers 5 different types of services, and I want to know which services a customer has. So when I'm doing a deal with them, I want to see what existing services are already in place. So in this scenario, my ref app of the customer already exists. I could go create a brand new ref app right now if I wanted to, if I wanted to link it to another record type. So the ref app gives you the auto search and select, and we can actually go do a custom one. So let's say you've got your main customer, and that's the one you're selling to. But instead, you deal purely on referrals, and you want to track which customer referred you and what services that referral customer has. This is where we combine a custom ref app field with the ref app. So I'll create a ref app, and we first have to create that association with the referral customer. So let's call this one referral customer. Now what I do on a ref app is I say it refers to an app. So either I'm going to select a contact, or in this case, I could come and I could select a customer. So that's all I have to do there. It's simply saying once I form the association, it's available. And then I can add the field that is pulled off of that referred customer. So we're going to save that. I'll quickly go and I'll show you what the ref app looks like. So basically, the system will automatically construct this whole search window and everything like that. So you get autocomplete functionality. You just start typing. It searches that app in real time. Or I can bring it up, and this will do a full search pop-up. And that's all just built into the ref app feature. So right now, if I go select somebody, it won't say anything. But we can hop right back into those settings. So we'll just go back again. And we can create a field that's pulled off of that related customer. So in this case, I create a ref app field right underneath the referral customer. I could call this referral services. Oops, let's fix that. So what I want is I want to take the services attribute from whoever the referral customer is, and I want to show it right here. So I select the reference object, and here we have all the reference objects, which we can see our custom one, referral customer right there. And then we're going to display all the fields. So here's every field we've configured in the customers app, including our custom field named services. So we will select that. Now when we save up, we go create a new deal. I'm going to just type in a customer name, and it's going to automatically go complete that services field for me. All right, so we type in our referral customer. And then you can see it toggles it off. So that's a read-only field, and it is detected that this referral customer has the payroll service. Okay, so that's your ref app fields. The last chunk you might have seen the fin key, con key, and accounts. We're not going to cover these today. They're brand new attribute types that have integrations with the accounting suite inside of Apptivo. This is something up and coming. So we'll cover this in a later session. But let's go ahead, let's get back into the slides and talk about the final subject of, well, we just talked about what each attribute is, but when I have a drop-down menu or when I have a toggle or number switch, what options and what settings do I have available to change those? So that's where the inspector tab comes into play of what options do I have available on each one. So for this, let's just go ahead and hop through. But the idea is you can change the text, like what the label it is. You can change the width of our fields. If it's a drop-down menu, I can set a default value, or I can type in some text that's like a little pop-up alert for my employees to see. And if you have any sort of number figure, you can apply rounding or control decimal points. And once again, if you have a list of values, you can do sorting. And of course, you can control what values appear. More on the advanced side is we can actually write conditions that make fields visible. And if you have a list of values, you could change the values based on some other field selection. And of course, you can make fields mandatory or not, but you can also write conditions to say that a field's mandatory only in this stage or in this condition. And then I can control when fields are searchable or not. And like we talked about earlier, I can control when a field is editable, whether it's view only, etc., through the security privileges. So let's go ahead and let's hop in and take a look through those areas. So we're back in that opportunities app, and we're just going to click through a couple fields here. So we saw that when we click on a function attribute, on the bottom I get kind of the unique function editor, and the reference attributes had like the reference object and such. But most of this other stuff is pretty standard. So we saw being able to label it. You could actually control it where the label is not present at all. And then you see it could control the width if I would like. Help text is pretty standard and straightforward. It just puts in a default piece of text into the field whenever somebody comes to the page, so you can explain how each field should be filled in. Then we get into the visibility mandatory controls, but I'm going to skip those for a moment. And you can see here, I can control like what kind of digits and stuff. So I can either render this as a currency, which in this case, yep, it's a currency. And you'll see if you're dealing with the currency, you'll select the code source because we do support multiple currencies. So the idea is that you could have a custom currency field that in the firm's base currency, and then have a different custom function field which calculates that currency to something else. So in that case, I can say, take the currency of this opportunity or take the currency of my business. So you can render that. And then scale. Scale pairs up with precision, where if I create a number field, which I'll just do real quickly for this example, number fields allow both scale, precision, and rounding. So the scale is going to be the number of digits after the decimal point, and the precision is the overall number of digits available in the number itself. And then rounding, of course, will just round based on whether it goes up or down from the decimal points, if you allow decimal points at all. So you can control that there. And then that's pretty much everything except when you go to the list-based values. So let's say if we take a drop-down menu here, we have a few different values. I've got apartments and single family. So what you can do is you can have custom sorting, or you can force it to just sort A to Z. So the custom sorting means you can like do drag and drop to rearrange stuff. And then the toggle switches work the same way. So here's a list of toggle switches, but you'll still see I've got the sorting capabilities here, and I can just move them around. And yeah, otherwise it's really just about the advanced settings. So getting into like the visibility and the mandatory conditions. So here we'll just spend the last minute or two looking through this, and we can wrap up this session. So what I've got is I have a section down here called bathrooms, and I've implemented some visibility control. Basically what you have is I've got a drop-down menu here, bathroom type. When we look at this drop-down menu, it has two values, full and half. Now there's no conditions on this field, but I've based other conditions to say, when I have a full bathroom, I want some things to happen to this form. And when I have a half bathroom, I want different things to happen. So what I've done is on other fields, I've written conditions to depend on this bathroom type. So I've got another drop-down down here called number of sinks. And if we scroll down, it has 4 values, 0, 1, 2, and 3+. So I type in all the values that might potentially happen. But if we go up a little bit, you'll see I've got a condition. I've got the value restriction condition turned on. So there's actually this condition builder. And if we look through this, you'll see it's kind of a complex and or type logic where you can build these conditions. And what I've done is I've created 2 scenarios. What I'm saying is it's driven by the bathroom type field. So you'll see all my custom fields are available right here. The first step is you find bathroom type, and you say, I'm going to base my condition on bathroom type. So that's my driving attribute. Then it's going to show you the 2 values available in bathroom type. So what I'm going to say is when I have a half bathroom selected, now it shows the values available in this dropdown, and I'm saying which values are acceptable in this condition. So if bathroom type is half, my acceptable values are 0 and 1. Or, so in this case, I've created another group. If bathroom type equals full, my acceptable conditions are 0, 1, 2, or 3 plus. So that's value restriction, where you have a core set of values, but then you're going to hide values based on conditions above. The next one I have is a bathtub shower. Now, clicking on this, you'll see it has visibility, which is set to a condition. The condition builder is very, very similar, where it's driven by an attribute. So once again, I drove this attribute or this condition based on the bathroom type attribute. And what I said is the driving attribute is full, meaning if I select full from bathroom type, this field is visible. In any other condition, the field is not visible. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm scrolling down, and this is a table attribute type, a table section type, by the way. Now, the table section is unique, where I've created a few attributes, but you'll notice when I'm editing a record, I can add as many values as I want. So let's say if you're a dog sitter and you want to track all of the different pets that somebody has, you're going to define a couple standard details you want to track about each pet. I want to know the pet's name, their age, and their breed. So I just create those 3 fields in a table, but I might have 1 pet or I might have 7 pets for one customer. So that's the benefit of this table attribute. The scenario we're looking at right here is, let's say if you're doing home remodeling and you're remodeling a few different bathrooms. I want to track this information about each bathroom, but I could have 1, 2, 3, 4 bathrooms inside of a house and have different details about each one of them. But that's kind of an aside to this. What we're looking at is the conditions between these fields. So full and half. As of right now, my number of sinks shows nothing. I could apply multiple conditions. So I could apply a condition that hides number of sinks until I've selected 1. Because right now you'll see when I select full, it shows that field, and now it shows the values inside of here. Versus if I select half, that field disappears, and then the values are changed inside of here. So that's how the conditions look in action, but let's go make a couple modifications together. So what you might want to do is string together a couple conditions to create a really complex workflow. So in this case, we'll go back down in our number of sinks. So there was no values in it until I picked something from bathroom type. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that somebody selects the number of sinks. So what I could do is I can write some conditions that say, well, maybe the field's not visible until it's necessary. And this is a really cool trick to simplify the system, which is when you know your employees are going through and filling information in a certain order, you can simply hide all the other fields until they've reached the proper step of the process. Makes it much easier for everybody to use. It's kind of guiding them with the form configuration. So what I can say is, I know that you can't select number of sinks until you know the type of bathroom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the values, but I'm also going to change the visibility. So it won't even be visible until I come and I use the bathroom type. I'll just go search for it. Bathroom. And only visible when the bathroom type is set to full or half. So I'm saying in any conditions, once I have a value, it's visible. But then based on that value, I'm going to display different options. So you could do that, and then I could even write something else. So the last kind of condition is mandatory condition. So what you'll see is for any field, I can come down and, maybe it's up here. Right there, mandatory. So I could just make the field mandatory. So it's mandatory in all scenarios now. But you'll notice once you make it mandatory, you can make it mandatory in a condition. Now here's the same condition builder. So what I can say is it's only mandatory if my bathroom type, sorry, let me select bathroom type here. We're going to do the same thing. So if my bathroom type is either half or full, so if it's visible, then it would be mandatory right here. But I could even add another one. So I could say bathroom type has to be selected, but then I'm also only going to make it mandatory when I reach a certain stage of deal or in a certain condition. So watch this. I can say that, during these first few stages of my deals, it's not mandatory. But then as soon as I get into these later stages, then I have to have that field present. So now the effect of that, we'll go bring up an existing deal, and I'll show you how all the different field changes will affect what's going on in the form. And with that, we can go ahead and wrap up the session. So we'll just bring up one of these existing deals. So what we see is right now it's in the qualification stage up at the top. We come down to our bathroom section. Let's go create a couple here and we'll select. So right now we see nothing in the details section. I hit half bathroom. I get number of sinks with a couple values. I get full bathroom. I get both of them, but not mandatory. Now I scroll up here and I decide to advance that stage down to Oh, I have no idea which one it was. Well, let's just grab one and hope it was there. Maybe not that one. I thought I grabbed one of these. Well, anyways, it would have detected it at this point. It'll just show the red little asterisk to mark off that the field is now mandatory. So those are all the conditions that we'll build together. For that, we're basically going to wrap up this session. For further information, each app does have its own unique conditions. You can also feel free to reach out directly to the support team. They'll be happy to guide you right here. But otherwise, I just want to give a quick thank you for everybody for watching and attending, and hopefully catch you next time.